All right, the review I've been waiting for. I finally finished Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne last night. I made it a point last night to finish it because I was like, there's no way I can stop right in the middle of a huge war. So, I am happy to say that the two people of the original three point of views did survive, and the one person that I was meh about did not survive. Kind of a surprise, but it is what it is. So, at the end of the second book, we ended with 5 points of view. Yes. So, Orca was being paralyzed by frost spiders, and her last view was basically darkness. So, we had no idea if she lived or died. Varg was down in Iskaden with the Bloodsworn, and minus Ainur and Asa and the kids. Yeah. So he was down in Iskaden. They had just killed Prince Jormur and had just discovered Sulik's kin, all tainted kin, that his father, the Emperor of Iskaden, misused simply because they were tainted, because he can't keep it in his pants when it comes to anybody, apparently. Elvar had just killed her father and her older brother and taken control of Snakovic, so she is now Jarl of Snakovic and excuse me, Jarl of Snakovic and chief of the Battlegrim. She had put a thrall collar on Ulfur, the wolf god, Ulfur, the wolf god, and his daughter Skald, and was using them to do her bidding, or to make sure that they do her bidding. Guthvar had just showed his hand and had just helped his aunt, Jarl Sigrun, kill Queen Helga. He killed Prince Haakon and was going to kill Skalk, but Skalk, Ursa, and Princess Estrid got away. So he's in Darl, and Ligrifa has defeated Orna, who was barely even brought back to life before she was attacked and killed by Ligrifa. Orna is the eagle goddess. And then Bjor was with Rada's warband, back in Svelgarth. Orca had just got done attacking his little warband to get Brekka back, and she had gotten Brekka to get away, and she had gotten Bjarn to get away, Uspa's little boy. And Bjor had just killed Revna, Gunnar's girl, and they had taken off after they were able to escape. Spurt had just stung Rada, the rat god, as well. So, opening the third and final book of the Bloodsworn series, but maybe not the final book of this entire world. So, Orca survived because the frost spiders didn't kill her. They just paralyzed her and they took her to Rada. So she is now a prisoner in Rada's camp, warband, as well as the son of Jarl Orlig, Dragun. His name is spelled Dragun. Saying it out loud sounds really weird. But anyway, so he is also a prisoner of Rada, and as well as any soldiers or anything who were in Svelgarth to defend it at that point. So they're all being marched along, I guess you could say, down to Darl, where Ligrifa is, to join her warband. And Bjor keeps trying to talk some sense into Orca. You know, he's like, why don't you just join us? You know, Ligrifa is all about keeping the tainted free and not having to worry about being thralled and all that jazz. And Orca's like, the gods don't care for us. You know, we're their children, yeah, but they don't care for us. Like, they're selfish. They destroy the world in a huge army for their own purposes, in a huge war for their own purposes. She's like, they don't care about you. They don't care about me. and they just disagree. She's still in chains being marched along. And throughout the third book, I kept saying, BR, listen, like, you need to remember what Orca said, because you're seeing that this is the truth, that they don't care about anybody else but themselves. So throughout their march, they get the feeling that somebody's watching them. Brack and Trollsbane and his little band keep going out to go after the lost children that Orca had tried to free. Keeps bringing some of them back. He eventually brings Bjarn back, and Orca kind of freaks out a little bit because she was hoping that Bjarn got to Gunnar and Helja and Lif, but he didn't. And she was hoping that they did not get Brekka. So he didn't show up from Brack. Merc is also with their camp, and she is just like foaming at the bit, can't wait for Radha to give her the go-ahead to kill Orca. But Radha needs to get information from Orca first. So he had smelled Ulfr on her and knew that she had met with him and was asking her, where is my brother? And she's not saying, because why should she? Because she knows they're going to kill her as soon as she says. And she needs to know that her son made it out. So she's not saying anything until at one point they end up bringing Spurt back, captured. And they're questioning, like, why is a Spurtus with you? Why is this creature, why are you working for Orca? Likriffa is your mother. She literally made you. And Spurt is like, Orca's my friend. Like, Brekka's my friend. Like, these people are my friends. So I'm loyal to them because they're cool. Anyway, so Radha basically threatens Spurt's life, and Orca, because she does care, even though she acts like she doesn't, she does care. She tells them where she knew that Ulfr was going last, because she didn't know what had happened since she left Elvar, obviously. So she told them that they would go to Stakavik, and that's all she knew. And they ended up killing Spurt anyway, which made me sad because Spurt was really cool. Anyway, and since they got the information they wanted, Radha says, okay, we can have the Humganga between Orca and Merc. Well, in this case, it's where Orca ends up killing Merc. She brings the wolf forth in her blood, and she basically rips out her throat. So we're all going here, sad for Spurt, yay for Merc. Bjorn notices this because chaos kind of happens. And you don't know who's attacked the camp. But another warband has come and attacked Radha's war camp. And it ends up being that there's a lot of fighting involved. Gunnar and Governor and Helja and Lif and Brekka join the fight, but it's also Dragon's dad, Orlig, Jarl Orlig, who had left Darl. I'm not sure if it was before Likriffa got there or as the chaos was happening, but he had left, so he wasn't there when Likriffa started her, when things had settled down enough in Darl for her to start taking stock of who's all there and who's she needs to go after. So Jarl Orlig came and attacked Radha's war camp. They were able to get away on the boats that they had. Radha, using his Seether runes, ended up destroying one of his boats. And they almost had Bjarn again, almost. But freaking Herrick had to go and wrestle him down to the ground. And so they've got Radha and his warband, they have Bjarn still. But Brekka, Orca, Lif, Gunnar, Helja, Dragon, and most of their Drengers, and Jarl Orlig, they were able to get away on the boats, his boats. And so they ended up taking the river all the way to the ocean, what they call the Whale Road, and they're going to head down south to join Elvar in Snakavik. So that's where they're going. Pause her story for a minute. Gunnar, Guthvar, who we really don't like his chapters because he's nothing but a whiny little turd, always thinking he's above everyone else at the same time whining about everything. So Guthvar is over there following his aunt's lead, and Ligriffa is they're all in Darl, and she is basically taking stock of who's alive, who's dead, of the Jarls that came to lend their support to Queen Helga. She's taking stock of them, wants to know who's going to be loyal to her. They all claim they're going to be loyal, and she's like, well, I only need one. And so she basically makes them fight, and the one that survives is the one that she chooses. So they all swear loyalty to her, because what else are they going to do? So she sends Jarl Sigrun and Guthvar and their Drengers out to look for Estrid, Skalk, and Yrsa, and whoever else went with them. And she also sent some of her Skraeling with them. So that's what they're going to do. Varg and his little band of merry men, they save Vol. Idle loses one hound because she usually had the two hounds. She loses one of her hounds in that fight in the courtyard at Prince Jormar's palace in Iskaden. So basically, while they're recuperating their losses, trying to figure out what's done, right before they sit down to feast for the freedom, the two ravens, Grok and Clo, come down with Vesely, and they deliver Orca's message. Elvar, chief of the Battleground, wants to know if you want to join her in taking down Ligriffa, because the dragon. So they do some thinking. They decide, yes, that's what we're going to do. So they have to rush back to the ports and head north back to Vigrid, because Prince Jormar's brother, Prince Rurik, who's not tainted, therefore he's a prince, not a thrall, is going to find out that his brother, Prince Jormar, is dead, and he's going to find out what's going on, that they've released all those tainted prisoners. At the ports, Varg gets captured. Rokia and Svik are with him by a gentleman. I guess we shouldn't call him a gentleman. A guy by the name of Sturker, who was hired by Leif Kolgig's son, who was Varg's old master's son that Varg had killed without realizing it, because he didn't realize he was tainted. He didn't realize he had the blood of the wolf god. So they kidnap him, and Svik and Rokia. They're able to fight their way out, plus the other Bloodsworn had come to get after him, but Leif and Sturker get away. They take out the other soldiers. Leif and Sturker end up going to Darl, meeting up with Ligriffa and asking if they could join her band because they need to kill Varg. And I guess this is the way to do it. So they're able to escape, but not without calling attention to Rurik, who's now after them with his ships. They have to be sailing in between islands and everything that are on the north end of Iskaden, and they finally are able to lose them a little bit. They pick up Einar and Asa and all the children that were left on the island. They picked them all up. They had to get a second ship for Sulik and all his kin. They also picked up the Bullman and Eva, who were thralled to Prince Jormar. I forgot to mention that. So they were freed by Glornir, and they joined his Bloodsworn. Kind of, sort of. They joined his group. They didn't really take vows or anything. So they're heading up to Snekavik to join with Elvar, and it gets to the point where they have to get their boats together so that they don't lose each other and fight against the fleet that's coming after them from Prince Rurik. And they're in the midst of battle, and that's when Orca and Jarl Orlig comes upon them. Now, Dragon had told Orca that he knew her secret. He knew she was tainted. And because she'd saved his life multiple times, he wasn't going to tell anybody about it. So they meet up with the Bloodsworn, and Orca and her crew, they're like, this is the Bloodsworn, we need to go help them out. And Jarl Orlig is like, oh boy, more favors that you can do for me. Yes, I'll help you, and you're going to owe me this. Another little thing that they had done was they had allowed Orca to bring Spurt's body with them in preserves, a salted barrel, I think it was. So that's another thing that he was counting towards her debt towards him. So they helped them take out Prince Rurik's fleet that was attacking the Bloodsworn. So they win, minimal losses. And then Orca joins the Bloodsworn. They finally vow Varg into the Bloodsworn. And as they're floating up to Snakovic to meet with Elvar, excuse me, Glornir tells everyone on his ships, because they're out of hearing from Jarl Orlig, he says, here's the thing. If you're going to be with us, and you don't have to, but if you're going to be with us, you either take the collar willingly, you'll have the keys, you can deal with it yourself, but people don't know that we're tainted. So you either wear the collars if you want to show your tainted blood, or you keep your tainted blood hidden, so that they don't know you're tainted, so that they don't associate us with being tainted, because we can't be thralled. We're not going to be thralled at all. So most of them choose to keep their beast inside their blood hidden. Eva and Taurus end up taking the collar, but they have their own key, so it doesn't really matter. Meanwhile, Elvar's in Snakovic, and one of the Jarls that was pleading loyalty to her ended up trying to take the treasure, and she goes after them. And everyone else goes after them. They make an example of them, basically kill her, and all that jazz. Well, she finds out Grend is missing. And Grend has been with Elvar basically since childhood, when her mother asked Grend to watch out for her. So they're getting ready to leave for the Wolfdales, which is Ulfr's main place, like Nostrander is for Ligrifa. Because he says, that's my seat of power. That's going to be probably a good place where we can make a stand against Ligrifa. She'll probably go there thinking that I'm weak, when I've already recovered. He's still thralled. Skuld's still thralled. He finds a bunch of Ulfhethnar soldiers people that have wolf blood in them. She wants to thrall them, and he's like, they're not going to follow you if you thrall them. Like, they'll follow me. I'm thralled to you. It's fine. And she's like, okay. Uspa at that time does take the time to be like, maybe though they might be a little more loyal to you, every one of us, if we weren't thralled. And she's like, I'm not taking that risk. No, everybody stays thralled. And Uspa's like, okay. Her husband, Barak, is like, okay, we're not going to say anything because we've got a collar around our necks. Uspa doesn't, but she's kind of there by the blood oath that they took to get Bjarn back in the first book. So they're still looking for Grend, can't find him until they're just about ready to leave, when she's sending out more Hundor's thralls to go find Grend. And then I don't remember his name, but goes by the Peacemaker. He's one of the Jarls that pled himself to Elvar, brings forth Grend all bloodied and beat, and said, he's been lying to you this whole time. He is actually tainted. So there's a surprise. We didn't expect Grend to be tainted. He seemed so formidable when they were tracking down Tainted and selling them to her father. So we come to find out that he has the blood of the Hound in him, so he's a Hundor. Um, so he's kept captive while they sail to the Wolfdales, and she doesn't know what to do with him. She feels betrayed. She feels hurt that he kept this from her. So she goes in, when they get to the Wolfdales, she goes in there and she's like, what's the deal? What's the story? And we find out that Grend was thralled to her mother's father, so her grandpa, when he was young. And at one point, like he and her mother played when they were children. And at one point, she got lost. He was able to find her using the hound in his blood. And her father didn't know that he was tainted, though. He was just thralled to them. So he gave him his freedom, and he decided to stay and be basically loyal bound to Elvar's mother. And so that when she got married to I forget his name now, Elvar's father, she requested to have Granda brought up so that he could watch over Elvar. So yeah, her mother knew, she didn't know, and he was supposed to keep it secret this whole time so that he didn't wind up in a collar. Some of the Jarls were telling her that she needed to make an example of Grend because he lied to her, made a fool of her. She doesn't want to let him go because he's been like the only person who understood everything she went through her entire life. So eventually she decides to let him go. And then they decide they're going to betray her because she's letting thralls go, and she shouldn't be doing that. Even her younger brother, whom she spared, is in on these secret meetings. Now, we have to back up a minute, so we'll pause there. Guthvar and his aunt were sent to go after Estrid. So they make it across the two rivers into Snakovik's territory, basically Elvar's territory now. They get to a place called the Ironwood, which is where the Wolfdales are. They're at the northeastern edge of the Ironwood. They meet Skulk, Estrid, and them in those woods. And Estrid is like, I'm going to make a deal with Ligriffa. We got information. We can get inside Ulfur's army, and we can pretend to be supporting them, but we can pass on information to you. So Ligriffa accepts this, but as Guthvar and them are trying to get out of the forest, they are attacked by Faunir. Faunir are, I believe they are Snaka's children, like Grok and Cloar. But I don't remember if that's what they are or not. Or I don't think Ulfur made any children besides. Anyway, so Estrid ends up joining Elvar at the Wolfdales and pleads her cause to them. They get there probably about the same time that the Bloodsworn get there, because when the Bloodsworn land, introduce themselves to Elvar, and see Skulk, Glornir goes to just take out Skulk right in front of everybody, and Elvar stops him and says, everybody needs to get along while we're all trying to fight the dragon. After the dragon's dead, then yeah, by all means, do whatever you need to do, but we need to work together to get rid of this dragon. So, they do a few night raids against Ligriffa's army, who eventually ended up coming out there, and it gets to the point when Brother, who was plotting against his sister, was found out, and he ended up being thrown into the river. Like somebody had attacked him and he went into the river, and they were able to pull him out of the river, Ligriffa's army was, and brought him forth to Ligriffa. And they kept him alive only because when Elvar dies, he gets to be in charge of Ulfur and Skulk and everybody that she has thralled. Elvar, upon realizing that her brother is probably still alive, decides to free all of the thralled in her care. So she goes to Elfra first, and she makes him. She doesn't force him. She makes him make a blood oath that he will treat everyone fairly and justly, and allow people their freedoms. That he's not going to create mayhem and chaos and everything. He accepts the blood oath, and she takes off his collar, and she offers the same thing to everyone else. So everyone that pledges themselves to Ulfr or her is under that same obligation to basically keep the peace and to treat people fairly. And she releases all the thralls so that brother cannot use them against her, should she against Ulfr. So should she die. So she had gained a ton of respect with all of the tainted in the area, and lost a lot of respect from those that were plotting against her. But they were kind of found out already, so they kind of went in hiding. Because when one of the Freck, was it Freck? Maybe. One of Estrid's thralled tainted that she had released to make her part seem better, had told her after they were freed, by the way, Estrid, Skulk, and them, they're not on your side. They've been giving information to tenors that have been able to come in and talk to them and sending it to the Griffa. So they went into hiding. They don't know where they are. Ulfr creates a cedar wall against the main gate to his Wolfdales, and they can't get through without being bitten and tormented. So they're making ladders in the woods, and they're making rafts to get across the river and everything so that they can do a full-on assault. Everybody's out there, doing arrows, protecting the wall, basically. Rada takes a small crew of his little rat people and climbs up on the hills and is able to get through. But when he was torturing one of Ulfr's daughters, the Valkyrie, when he was skinning her alive, and afterwards he makes the Rolled Skinna, the book, out of her hide. Anyway, he says he was able to get the passcodes through the cedar walls from her while he was skinning her alive. Nice, uncle. So they're able to get inside. There was one scene that just got, I'm like, this is kind of rude. So they're inside, let's call it a palace. They're inside the palace. They're looking for rooms. They're looking for Elvar specifically. Bjor is with them. And they find a room where two people are going at it. And they ended up killing him. And I'm always like, that's just rude. Well, at least they died happy. Hopefully. Anyway, they find Elvar's room. Rada sends Bjor in to kill her. Bjor's kind of like, oh, I don't really want to kill her, but, she does go after tainted people, and she does thrall them, so it's kind of a good thing. Her guards wake her up, and a fight ensues. Solith, the one of the Battle Grim who was with her from the beginning, who got her teeth taken out by the tenor before they crossed over the bridge to go into the big battleground in North. Anyway, she ends up dying in this battle. And Thorgunna, who is one of the berserkers, who's no longer thralled, is fighting against pretty much as many of the rat people that are coming in as possible. Estrid had joined the rat people and were joining in that fight. And Rada was insisting that Bjor end the fight between him and Elvar and kill Elvar. Well, Elvar is able to get the upper hand against Bjor, goes to kill him, and then kind of hesitates. And they kind of have kind of a moment of truth, and he's like, and she's like, why would you do this? Why would you come against me? And he's like, because you hunt down the tainted and you thrall them. He's like, I can't support that. I am tainted. And she's like, I set them free. But then I'm assuming it was Rada and not Skulk. All it says is like strong hands like held her forehead and basically snapped her neck. And she was thrown down the stairs, the middle of the stairs, for basically the whole hall to see because everyone woke up with the sound of fighting in her room. So Elvar died by, I believe it was Rada's hand. And that's when Bjor starts to question for the first time whether or not his gods really have their best interests at heart. Especially when he finds out that Rada knew that she had released all the thralled. So everything's chaos. Everybody's fighting in the main hall. And then Ulfr, because his main hall was built around an ash tree, and we got the Froa spirits. So Ulfra had woken up the Froa spirit that he had previously put to sleep long before these books were ever written. And so when Ligrifa comes into the castle and they're fighting, everybody else is fighting, their little war bands. At one point, Ligrifa's like, I have a present for you. And she releases Brother in her hands, and he goes to try and command Ulfr. And Ulfr's like, what are you doing? And then he's like, oh, don't you know I've been freed? And he shows that he doesn't have the collar anymore. So then Ligrifa, in true Ligrifa spirit, ends up eating Brother because she's mad. That goes in two ways. She's both crazy and angry. So they fight some more, and then Ulfr is able to get her back up against the ash tree where and he wakes the spirit, and the spirit ends up using her vines and her roots and everything to take hold of Ligrifa. Her raven feeders are trying to free her. And then Skald, I believe, the Gutherman, ends up creating Gulder runes and creating a fire, and so the tree ends up dying. At this point, Orca and Glornir are up on top, getting away from the fire, battling with Drekker and Ilska and a few other raven feeders, while Varg and Svik and Rokia are downstairs and they're battling against Brack Trollsbane, who ends up killing Einar, which makes me sad. And it really upsets the little girl Refna because Einar was so popular with the kids. So Ligrifa, kind of beaten, she retreats. They don't know where she goes, but they kind of have a moment to lick their wounds. But up on top, Orca ends up getting the best of Ilska and killing Ilska, to which Drekker gets mad. And that's the one thing that I hate about these stories, because I'm like, what right do you have to get mad? You stole her son. You started this. You brought it upon yourself. So now it's just people are getting back at each other. But if you would have just left Orca alone, she wouldn't have been coming after you. So Ilska's dead. Drekker's still alive. They make it out. Orca, Glunir, Vol, and them, they kind of go into the woods a little bit. They've got Vesli with them. Vesli was hanging onto Drekker's head as he jumped. And when she came back to join him, she's like, I got a tooth, though. He got away, but I got a tooth. And I think that's funny, because she's a tenor, so they're all about the teeth. They don't have a very long reprieve, though, because Lick went and she woke up Sneka, their father, the big snake god, the one that the mountain ranges are basically built around his bones. Not built around his bones, grew up around his bones. So Ligrifa woke him up, and he was waking up while they were still, while Orca was still fighting with Drekker. And he came and he attacked the Ulfur's hall, basically. And Ulfur is getting all the people out through the tunnels. And that's where they got separated. So they all are in the woods, regrouping. And yeah. It ends up being that Rada and Ligrifa were going to kill Snecka and eat his heart so that they could take his power. And so they poison him. I'm not sure how, but when he's dead, Rada cuts into his chest and grabs his heart, holds it up for everyone to see, and then something flies along and grabs it. I have assumed it was Vesely, but it could have been Grok and Chloe, who are children of Snacka. So it could have been them too. It doesn't really say. It just says something with wings came and grabbed it. So they didn't get the heart. No one got the heart. And at that point, Ulfur, after everyone has met up with each other again, basically attacks, and this is the final battle. Now, one thing I didn't mention because I forgot was Hrung, the giant head that was in Snakovic, the talking giant head, kept alive by magic. He had killed Snecka by like having some sort of poison or something, and all that's left of him through magic or something is his head. Anyway, he was brought down to the Wolfdales from Snakovic. He was brought out of the woods by Ulfur, Sigvat, and all of them. And so we've got Ulfur fighting with Ligrifa. We've got everybody fighting everybody. And there's poetic justice in this because Guthvar is going to make a run for it. Like, he's seeing everything, and he's like, let's just go. And he tries getting his aunt out, but she's really injured. So he decides, well, if we win, they'll tend to her. And he just leaves her because that's the type of person Guthvar is. And as he's going towards the woods, he sees Lif, and he's like, oh, you. Well, you know what? Let's just talk it out. And Lif is like, no. He's like, you're a fisherman. What are you going to do against me? And Lif is, I've trained with Orca Skull Splitter. I've trained with the Bloodsworn. Like, I've trained harder than a Drenger has ever trained. So he and Ligrifa go at it, and eventually Lif and Guthvar go at it, and he gets Guthvar. Okay, yeah. He kills Guthvar. So that was good. Finally, he's gone. And then Orca's going after Drekker. So the Bloodsworn is attacking his Drengers. They're not called Drengers, his warriors. Orca's able to get him by himself. They're fighting. She gets him on the ground because she has frost spider venom on her knife. So he starts slowing down. And then she decides to let Brekka kill him. And she teaches him how to do it. Because he's at her mercy. He can't do anything. He's paralyzed. Varg is over there battling Brack Trollsbane. Because he was trying to kill Taras the same way he killed Einar. And so Svik and Rokia and the rest of them are keeping his warriors company, while Varg keeps going after Brack, and he eventually backs Brack up to a tree, and he stabs him and pins him to the tree. And then Svik stops him and says, no, like, you're not the only one that needs revenge on him. And so they basically give the kids that they've been toting around this whole time weapons, and the kids basically kill him. So, yeah, Brack's taken care of, Drekker's taken care of, Guthvar's taken care of. They end up being able to sling Hrung into Ligrifa's mouth, so she dies the same way Snacka died. so long ago with the poison that was in Hrung. So, do we have a happy ending? Well, Orca and Glorner had gone to help Ulfra with Ligrifa. And she ended up flinging them off of her. Orca landed on the ground, and she ended up going to either crush Orca or pick her up and eat her. But Glorner got in the way, and Ligrifa's claw slashed at him and sent him flying. And they were able to get the head into Ligrifa before she could do any more damage. But so Glorner ended up dying, and Brooke was very upset about that. Which I was too, because Glorner, come on, he needs his uncle. So at the very last scene, it was kind of it wasn't as much of a happy ending as you would think. The very last scene is the Bloodsworn had made it back to Felor, where it all started. So they made it back to Orca's homestead, where she had built a cairn over Thorkel. And they had got to work and were building a cairn around Glorner as well. And, excuse me, they're talking about what they do now, who's going to be chief. And they never decided on who's going to be chief, but Varg comes up with the idea of, why does the Bloodsworn need to be on, always raiding stuff? Why don't we have a place that we can call home for those who are older, for those who are younger and not quite able to join the fight yet? A place for those who don't want to be raiding and everything. Why don't we have a place for them to stay and to hang out and to build their own little communities without having to worry about raiding and, sailing on the railroad, on the whale road and whatnot. Because he and Rokia finally get together, and they are talking about maybe having kids someday. And Vol goes, "What do you think, Orca? Do you think that's okay if we have that here, or would this be too many memories?" And Orca's like, "No, that sounds like a good plan." So basically, it's going to be a time of peace, but we don't know. Rada was taken by Grok and Chloe, flown up into the air and then dropped. They thought he was dead, but when they went back to go take care of his body, he was gone. So they don't know where Rada is. Ulfers was currently taking care of his people, you assume. He offered a place for Glorner and his honored dead by Elvar and such, but they decided to take him back to Felor. So as far as we know, Ulfr is the only god that we know where he's at. We don't know where Uspa and Barak and Bjarn are. Oh, Bjor died. Yes, forgot about that. Bjar finally remembered Orca's words to him, sent Fane with the children off into the woods to escape the war, took Bjarn with him to take him back to his mom. So he does. He takes him back to his mom and dad, but then Sigvat sees Bjar, remembers that he killed... No, sorry, not Sigvat. Gunnar sees Bjar and decides he's going to take him out. And Gunnar doesn't really put up much of... Or not Gunnar. Bjar doesn't really put up much of a fight. So Bjar does die. I thought that was kind of sad, but it is what it is. I was hoping he would be redeemed. He would be redeemed and, live. But so we don't know where most of the people are, because all we know is where Varg, Orca, and the rest of the Bloodsworn are. We don't know where Uspa is. We don't know where Barak is. We don't know where... we don't know what happened to Grend, Sigvat, or the Battlegrim. They're just kind of around. And we also don't know what's going to happen with Rurik and his crowd, because towards the end of the main battle, their fleet was surrounding basically all the main cities in Vigrid. So, and Snakka took out some of them, but he didn't take out all of them. So we don't know what's going to happen there, which is why I say I think he's going to do more books in this world, because a lot of things aren't wrapped up, unless that's the way he wants it, which is fine. Because, like I said, the two people that I wanted to live lived. We know that they have mostly a happy ending. So, yeah. that is the Bloodsworn series by John Gwynne. I absolutely loved it.